Thanks for tuning in tonight. And tonight I got a great show for you. Tonight we're going to be having Angelia Shear on. And Angelia is the state director for MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network here in Tennessee. She also has a side research project called ParaShearResearch.com. And she's got a new book out, and we're going to discuss that. And we're going to talk about a little bit of everything that's out there. Angelia is a great wealth of information, and I'm going to include the links to be able to contact her directly and be able to get her book. So let's get into it and welcome Angelia in. Hey, Angelia Shear, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's always great, Paul, to talk to you. I love your show, and I really appreciate you having me back on tonight.
Oh, I'm honored that you're listening to my show, first of all. I mean,
are you kidding? It's great. Everybody better be listening to your show. You do a great job. So.
Well, I try not to overtalk my guests, because this show is all about the guest. It's all about listening to people's stories, because I just want them to know that they have a voice and they can talk without being ridiculed or judged. And I mean, I'm in no means an expert, and which is why I brought you on, because I consider you a great researcher, and you have a lot of tools in your tool belt. And I think my audience would love to hear about you and know about you, and especially your new book.
Well, I really appreciate that. I want to say something about what you talked about. I tell a joke that if I was doing this to make a living, I'd be under a bridge. I mean, this is my passion from my heart since I was a small girl. You're going to laugh at this. My mama would tell me when I was like 5 years old, I'd watch Star Trek, and she said she'd find me crying, and she'd go, "Ange, why are you crying?" And I was like 5. She goes, I would say, "I'm supposed to be on that ship, with those people, with that team." So. Yeah. Whatever God made me, made me UFO girl. And one other thing is, I love my witnesses. That's what it's all about. For 40 years, I've never almost betrayed anyone, because it's really important for me to provide a safe place for people to come forward. That's the main, point of my research. We're in a wonderful time now, because people are really interested in this, and they're coming forward all the time. So I want everybody out there that hears this, if you've had a sighting or you've had an experience, please, we'll give you all the contact information. Please give me a buzz. Right now, since my book release, I have people from all over the world. I had a gentleman from Sweden, and thank God he can speak great English, because he called me about his sighting. So that's what's so wonderful. That's if I'm, I don't like being in the spotlight, but if I push myself out there, what I'm doing it for is to find people, that've had a story and need somebody to talk to, Paul.
Yeah, and that's great, because just through this little project I've been doing, I have spoken with people all over the world, and it's amazing how we're all connected with a lot of these topics. And I know you've probably heard some of the Bigfoot stories, the Dogman stories, and all this, and it seems like those are the ones that I've heard from across the pond a little bit. I've spoken with someone in the past that said she was, I better not say where she's from, but it's in Europe, and just her being kind of attacked by one of these things and not being able to talk to anyone kind of scarred her. So after she found another researcher here in the United States, and he got both of us connected, that helped her greatly. And it's just all about connection. It's all about figuring this out together.
Well, that's a big deal. I have people contact me, and the relief. I talked to a gentleman the other day. He had a sighting 40 years ago. And I want to stress this point, Paul, to the audience. Our judicial system is based on credible witness testimony. And the witnesses that I deal with, their credibility, if they were put on a jury or in a court of law, they would either convict you or acquit you. I mean, these people their credibility is out there. This gentleman he was a farmer. He didn't want anyone to know who he was. There was no monetary gain for him. He'd been carrying this around with him for 40 years. And, this is a big burly guy, and after he talked to me, he goes, "Ange, I'm so sorry." He apologized. He choked up, and I said, "Please don't apologize." He goes, you've released me. I feel so much better. And I said, you live in a small community and maybe you feel like you can't talk to people, but I bet there's more people there than you know. And I'm talking to, you know, I probably interviewed 3,000 people at this point, you know, and it really made him feel better. And again, not only about making my people feel better and know that there's a community for them, it's also about gathering data. And then I want to go back into your cryptid. You know, my book, it's called UFO Encounters, How High Strange Events Transform Human Perception. I want to get into a little bit of that. I waited till the book was published, but the book is not only about some cool cases and missing time and cryptids and paranormal events. It's all of that, but it's all about the human beings, the people that are having these experiences. You know, we can't take the human out of the quotient, and everybody wants to do that. Perception is a very complicated issue to some degree.
Right.
And I want to share a story, if it's okay with you, on how I started studying not only the phenomena, but my witnesses also.
Sure.
Probably in my mid to late 20s, and I had a case that came to me. It was a group of people, about 14 individuals on a beach. They were having a beach party around 10:30 at night. And at one point, 4 of the individuals started seeing a UFO out over the water. It was probably 2 or 3 football fields out, 200 or 300 feet in altitude, very close. And Paul, no matter what they did, the other 10 people could not see it. Could not. And these people were credible. They weren't on drugs, even though if you were on drugs or intoxicated, you don't have the same delusion or the same hallucination or, you know, and I just, you know, some people go, oh, it's a common delusion. I wasn't buying it. You know, they were right on, separated. They described the same thing. And at that moment, I was convinced those 4 human beings were perceiving a greater degree of the electromagnetic spectrum than the other ones, for whatever reason. And so after that, you know, when I was younger and poorer and didn't have all this cool equipment I have now, I had a steady stream of witnesses that I could study, you know, over a long period of time. And that my research has held like 38 years. Some years later, I'm a big meditator and, you know, study human consciousness. I was accepted at the Monroe Institute, and I was accepted there 13 years in a row. And it's where we study human consciousness and perception, how we can manipulate our own perception to perceive things. And when I went there, that was a personal pursuit. Those things kind of crashed together because things that we were experiencing in isolation, what they call check units, dry units, were very similar to what a lot of my witnesses in the UFO and cryptid field, you know, were reporting. I really went off on a study, you know, as far as studying human perception. And in my book, I talk about that if you want to have an analogy, if, let's say, humans have the possibility of perceiving, let's say, just channels 1 through 10 to have an analogy. Most humans can only perceive channels 1 through 3, and then you get natural sensitives and psychics 4, 5, and 6, and then from there on you can train. So when we bring this point out, it's not only a book about UFO encounters, it's about the potential of humans and what's happening to human beings to some degree. You know, our perceptual abilities seem to be, you know, increasing. I feel that some of these UFO sightings, and even maybe possibly some of the cryptid sightings, these things are all around us all the time, but for some reason we're just not aware of it. And yet some of my witnesses who are very sensitive are aware of it to some degree. It takes a lot of the problems out of these sightings, you know, to some degree, if you put in the quotient of human perception. And my research just keeps, you know, hanging in there. And the reason it's so interesting is because not only are some humans very sensitive, this situation comes in. Just like at Monroe, you people, if you haven't heard of the Monroe Institute, go check it out. They use technology to actually, it's called hemisynchronization, to throw you into these altered states. And then we were actually learning precision, you know, where are we? There were focus levels. Are we at focus 12, focus 15? You know, we learned some very precise, you know, abilities there. I started applying that to my witnesses. And so there were some common denominators that showed up. You know, either some of my witnesses were sensitive from birth, meaning, Paul, they were having paranormal things, UFO sightings, ghost sightings, cryptid sightings, or they fell into another category where they were just going along with their life. And then in my case, since I'm a UFO researcher, they had some kind of close range UFO sighting, missing time, entity encounter, you know, and it was like their whole physiology was completely rewired. After
Wow.
instead of channels 1 through 2, they're getting 1 through 8 now. And so I had, I've spent years, I said, I'm kind of the UFO midwife, putting people through a lot of their fears, that kind of thing. And what the outcome on the other side, which was so incredible, is I started to see these incredible transformative events in these human beings. Meaning if they could integrate their fears, whatever was going on, they experienced some jumps in cognition, intellectual development, sensitivity, that kind of thing. So,
yeah,
go too deep off on that. But first of all,
I was going to say, it's like those people that you've heard of that have the near-death experiences. Once they do, they come back and they seem to be more in tune with the other side, or the veil has thinned out for them. And it's kind of like, if you're familiar with John Keel. I love John Keel. And he was one of the ones that says the deeper he looked in, or the more he looked into it, the more he felt like something was looking back. So there's definitely a connection with all of this stuff.
Absolutely. And, that's why I wanted to tie in the UFO sightings with the cryptid sightings, I'm not a Bigfoot researcher, but for the past 3 years ago, I met Matt Dale, who had an incredible event. And I just fell in love with some of these hunters. They were the real deal. So, Paul, you know me, I'm obsessive. I exhausted the Bigfoot literature probably in 3 years, to educate myself. Then I'm going out with some paramilitary guys, that kind of thing, researching. And, no matter what anyone said, most researchers will tell you there's some very weird phenomena around, the Bigfoot phenomena. We've had sightings where people saw them going across the street and they saw half of them, but not the other half, or, they appear and disappear, that kind of thing. And, we don't know, but it fits into my model, really well. As far as, and again, I'm oversimplifying this, but to give everybody a mental picture, let's say the Greys show up on Channel 4 constantly. Bigfoot shows up on Channel 7 every now and then, people a grasp of, are you changing channels? How did you change channels? Did you do it yourself? Or the big ticket, it seems that, some of my individuals that have experiences with these UFO craft, the external situation forced them into a different channel. And even when that happens, you're forever changed. You never go back to the same way that you were before. So your show is kind of the first one that I've worked a few other shows, but I wanted to start bringing that out because I want to bring my audience into the adventure. This isn't just something out there. This is, a seeming development that we all have that can be, if you want, developed by training at like the Monroe Institute, other things. And I think it would help people understand what's happened to them, in that if it was a situation that I'm talking about, you can learn to control that. And if bad things are happening on Channel 4, don't go to Channel 4. Stay over here, somewhere else. But, it's really exciting because then I'm not saying these things aren't real, because what they're perceiving are very real.
Yeah, and you explained it in a great way. I mean, even I can understand it. So I like that. And, you and I talked a year or two ago when we first met, and you were telling me about, or you were introducing me to some of these things and how you thought they were all connected. And some of the things for the witnesses I'd been talking to, they had seen the orbs and the lights along with the cryptid sightings. And it could have been in areas where they'd had high paranormal activity. So I'm glad you brought that up, because like I said, that's a better way to explain it with the television channels. And
again, it's an analogy, and I love it. Go back over to the cryptid. You're going to like this. I won't say the name of the researcher, but it's someone I really, really respect. And it took me a while to get his trust. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, it's that blonde girl. I'm not sure if she's serious or not, but he knows I am now. But I told him, I said, guys, are you all keeping field notes? And I know they weren't. And I said, the reason I'm asking, I want you to call me, because when you get hits on your FLIR cameras and you're seeing these entities come in, I want you to pay attention. Are you seeing orbs up in the trees too? We're kept, and sure enough, I swear, 4 weeks later, I get a phone call. We're in the field, man, a few words, there's orbs in the trees. So, all of us, I'm working too, Paul, in, a lot of us serious researchers working together. it's before the Bigfoot people didn't talk to the UFO people, and the UFO people didn't talk to the, blah. That's just not true, because if anyone, I can tell the people that are doing real research, because guess what? The truth is the truth.
Right.
You've been out there, I've experienced it all. UFO, cryptid sightings, ghost things, haunting things, and you can tell. I mean, the truth is the truth. I used to draw this diagram like a circle. And if you come in at UFOs, you'll get Bigfoot. And if you come in at Bigfoot, you'll get UFOs. And if you come in at ghosts, you get all of, So no matter where you come in as far as a researcher, if you're really out there, you're going to get probably all of it to some degree.
Yeah. And it makes sense, because I don't know if this is part of it, but I'd like to ask your opinion and touch on it. The whole MKUltra stuff, they were like the military. It's a proven fact that in the 50s, the CIA started incorporating, or what they call MKUltra. But what they were doing was were trying to bring people deeper into deeper levels of they were trying to create psychic spies and super soldiers and all this kind of stuff, which is a real deal. And, our viewers probably have heard of it and can look it up. But I think, once they got deeper in and they were experiencing some things, that's when the things started coming back to them. Because if you listen to some of the witnesses that have actually been involved in the program, and I can't bring up their names, but they will tell you that they felt ever since they went in and started doing their meditations and research and trying to look into a remote view or whatever, things started just following them around. They just seemed to couldn't get away from it. So
remember, when you've been in channels 1, 2, or 3 and you meditate, all you're learning are methods of dissociation. And I'm glad you brought up MKUltra, because I want to come back to that. It's important. I put a formula in my book, because if you're stuck on channel 4, and to move, you have to relax, go into a deep relaxation to even move off that channel. Then you move off that channel and have to know where you're going, you know what I mean? Or to some degree, and then you move away. With some of these, I'm not an expert by any means on MKUltra, but one thing that I did study, there was a book a long time ago, Kenneth Ring wrote The Omega Project. And it was about a study about, they said a lot of these people that are having these experiences, they're imaginal because they're dissociated. Right. And he came to the same conclusion that I did. Well, just because someone is traumatized and they're dissociated doesn't mean what they're perceiving is not true. It just means that someone has used a traumatic event or a car accident or an MKUltra. I used to think, some of these people were tortured or, really abused. Like, why? Well, it dawned on me they were forcing them to dissociate in very extreme ways. And when you dissociate, you change channels. And depending on the way that you hurt someone or traumatize them, I suspect there are very real exact ways to get them to go to certain channels, if that makes sense. And so even that torture or whatever, happened to these people started to make sense, because those were forced ways to dissociate someone. And all dissociate means is you're going to move off the current channel you are in to some other channel, if that makes sense. And again, I think, you can, in the way that you force someone to dissociate, I think you could, if you've been studying this a long time, you could force them into achieving certain repeatable states, if that makes sense, channels, that kind of thing. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that dissociation thing is important to what, is happening. I used to wonder, a lot of people would have UFO sightings when they were driving down the road late at night. Well, think of that. You're driving, it's monotonous, I do hypnosis with people. Well, that's a precursor, to a state change. And you see what I'm saying? You're driving along and, you change states and wow, there's a UFO. So there is a huge connection, to these things for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. You hit on it, because a lot of times at night, I think there is something called you can get hypnotized, and a lot of people just driving down the road for hour after hour, they're watching the white line. They're just kind of lose themselves. They either get very tired and sleepy, or maybe they start to hallucinate, but still not hallucinate, but like you said, change channels. But they actually are seeing something on a different plane or a different level.
Absolutely. And I believe that's what I want to stress. What I'm talking about is not about a drug-induced hallucination.
Right.
talking about that we live in a hugely complex universe. And I think there's things all over the place. You know, I think there's creatures, beings right here with us, you know what I mean? Interdimensionals, extra dimensionals, you know, things off on other planets. Someone asked me what's going on. I said, well, it's all going on. You know, it's a matter of having, you know, enough discernment to figure out, well, what is this? You know, is this a cryptid? Is this an entity? Is this an ET? Is this an interdimensional? Is this some kind of ghostly phenomena? And, you know, that's the ticket there, is to be able to differentiate it out to some degree.
Hey, that's your next book. What's going on? ... Everything.
Well, you know, I've actually decided I've written 2 books. I want to write a book about perception and energetics in human, because, you know, a lot of people have said, well, Ange, what are your ideas on, you know, how do we master this? You know, meaning, you know, how do you travel? That's why I mentioned the Monroe Institute. And also, you know, I want to share a story to your audience too, especially people that have had fearful, you know, things like encounters with cryptids or even, you know, abductions, that kind of thing. There's this thing that was going on for so many years, like, well, if this is happening to you, you can't stop it. Well, I think we are God's children. That means we have power, people. We are not helpless victims, okay? And so I like to empower my people. There was really an incredible story. I found a little book, Paul. It was called How to Prevent Alien Abduction, or I thought it was a joke. I'll have to get the title for you. But it wasn't. It was written by a very educated woman, very well written, you know, for people to try to empower themselves to stop some of the negative stuff. Well, there was one story in there about a woman that, and I found her. I talked to her. She said, Ange, I'll talk to you, but then I don't want to talk to anyone again because it's over. And I said, great. But anyway, her family, familial, her mother, her grandmother, were all involved in what they thought was, what they knew was the abduction phenomenon. The little grays coming through the wall, taking people. She goes, we were all brought back. We were not harmed. So she goes, you know, we just kind of accepted it. Well, years went by. She had a son that was about 8 years old. He came in the kitchen one morning and he goes, Mom, look what was in my room last night. He drew the grays. Well, it made her furious. I mean, furious. So, and this is my point to the audience about, you know, God gave us righteous anger and, you know, to protect ourselves. You know, we can't be abusive with that, but I want to stress the story. So anyway, she said, you know, she just was seething. And so a few weeks went by and sure enough, she's in the bed frozen. She feels this thing happening. And here comes these 3 gray entities through the wall. And she was frozen. She couldn't move. And then her anger and her rage for them invading her house and her child took over. And guess what, Paul? She broke out of the paralysis. You know, it seems like that energy and anger broke her out, and she jumped up out of the bed and went running across the room and grabbed one of these things by the neck and broke its neck. Its head fell over. The other 2 beings were shocked. They grabbed the thing and went back through the wall. Guess what? They never came back. And, you know, a very tender Christian woman. She goes, Ange, I really even felt guilt. She goes, I didn't want to hurt anything. She said, that wasn't my intention, but you had no right to come and, you know, take us against our will. So that's just a little side note. And, you know, I like to throw out because we do have power to some degree. You know, we can't prevent everything from happening to us, but, you know, we can prevent some things from happening.
And I know you've heard it before, and I've heard it as well, as a lot of people say once these things start happening, they call out. They may say, you know, leave me alone in the name of Jesus. I mean, and these things disappear. I'm not sure, you know, if, I mean, a lot of people don't subscribe to that theory, but I think it may also just be like, just as the overt act of telling something that you're not a vessel, you're not a victim. Just maybe they back off immediately once you give them any kind of a resistance. Maybe I'm not sure.
You know, I have several thoughts. You need to watch. You tell me my time here, but you know, internal power, you know, is something, and I'm not talking about arrogant power. I'm talking about, you know, reclaiming your connection to things. And you know, I believe, you know, I had a great teacher, a mentor years ago, and I love my horses. And, you know, he taught me a great lesson as an example. And he goes, Ange, do you want your horses to be fearful of you and just, you know, obey you for, and I said, well, no, I want them to be, they're my companions. And to make a long story short, he said, Ange, horses have no idea how much money, time, you spend on them. And why? And I said, because they're wonderful, they're loyal and magnificent creatures. And he said, can you not imagine that there are entities in the universe that are way beyond humans that love humans like that? And so at this point, I want to talk about, if it's okay with you, positive experiences, because God made rattlesnakes and bunnies. Not everything is negative and evil.
Right.
So I've had experiences, personal experiences out in the field with very positive things. 2 years ago, my team was out and we got this entity on our FLIR cameras. We couldn't see it with the naked eye. Imagine that, off, our visual spectrum. But it was there probably 40 feet away and it was waving at us, signaling like, hey, trying to get our attention. And we felt nothing negative at all. You know what I mean? There was possession, or it was like, hey. And one of my pilots, he tells a story that'll crack you up, but he goes, I'll go over there. I'm not afraid. So we have Don Williams, one of my great partners.
Oh, yeah.
He is going up 10, over 4, till he got, right up close to this thing and he couldn't see it. And the thing was going like this, trying to get his attention, and no harm happened. I really felt bad that we couldn't perceive it and just with our natural eyes. But, we've had some really incredible, wonderful encounters,
Yeah.
My book talks about some of those, the positive ones too. So.
Yeah. And I was about to bring that up. You got me in contact with a witness, and I don't know if I can say that yet, or witness J. May I say that?
Witness J?
Yeah, and we haven't connected yet for a show or anything. I'm supposed to go visit with him, and he's going to take me and show me some of the cryptid stuff that he's kind of been going on out there in that property also. Yeah. But when we first started talking, some of his claim, I'm a former police officer, so a lot of things I deal with are just facts right in front of your face. But I'm a little different than some of the other guys. But when I started talking to him, I could actually hear the fear and the realness in his voice and in his actions, and like we've talked about before, just, knowing how to interview people or talk to people, you look for signs of distress, you look for micro expressions. I watch all of that, and it's an incredible story. And
we'll get you together. Witness Jay, for the audience, he had over 3 hours of missing time. By sheer dumb luck, he had been videoing some little baby birds in his barn, and he thought he turned the phone off. He didn't. He turned it upside down. We captured 2 hours and 20 minutes of some of the wildest audio you have ever heard. We have not been able to debunk it in 3 years now. The first time I played this audio in front of him with my team, his pupils dilated. He started perspiring profusely. His hands started shaking. So just like Paul said, whatever happened to him, something truly physiologic happened to him. And the reason this case is so interesting is he found himself on the ground 80 feet from the barn where he had no idea how he went there. He went inside, woke his mom up. His father had died, and his mom had asked him to come home and help her close the farm down and sell some things. The mom is a matriarch. This woman had a military contracting clearance. She's 70-something years old and carries her 38 with her everywhere she goes. She didn't believe in any of this crap. I love that. He comes in. She thinks he's been mugged. So she makes him take his shirt off, and she's taking pictures of his body. Well, he's got this burn mark pattern on his head and behind his ears. And so hardly ever do we get that, someone that was right there. She wants to call the sheriff's department. He wouldn't let her. But the point was, we had another witness there, collecting the evidence. So you're exactly right. To this day, he's still fearful at times. He's actually gone on the radio. I'm so proud of him. And, he was, at one point, he got really paranoid, carried his gun around with him, everywhere. When my team came, kind of freaked out some people. And then he called me and asked me for all of the evidence back. People get really paranoid. Thank goodness he, worked through that. He's sharing his story now because he wants people to get out. But
right,
you cover a lot of the cryptid stuff. And what's so interesting is after he had that, all heck broke loose. he had, I have to do a lecture, and I've got the video. We have orbs flying through his house from a security camera, and these are not dust motes. They're self-illuminating, pulsing orbs. We have a UFO that came down over his house, and it's just going, blah, 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 blinking. And then it was really hard for him to tell me, even though we had a relationship. He took his four-wheeler out with his dog one night, and he had some kind of cryptid sighting down in the woods. So there you go. It's like his perception's blown open, and now he's aware of all these things, kind of happening. So great case.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think he's one of the first ones that I've actually, spoken to in person, or not in person, but I've actually spoken to. You've had the fortunate luck to speak to all of these guys, and I'm just kind of getting started. But yeah, just speaking with him kind of opened my eyes a little bit to it, and makes me want to talk to more people. And I know they're out there. They just
they're out.
Yeah, they're just not coming forward. And I know what changed my mind here just real quick, but I instantly thought about Travis Walton. And I know you guys are great friends, and I'm still in in awe that you invited me to your house almost 2 years ago to meet Travis. And just meeting this guy, Travis is probably one of the most down to earth, common sense filled guys I've ever met. And he is, totally believable. There's not an ounce of fame and fortune seeking in his body, No.
And, what's interesting, Travis, when all of us investigators are alone, we'll kind of speculate, but he will not speculate in public at all. And I don't want, he goes, I stick with the facts.
Right.
And he always sticks with the facts. I mean, and something about Travis, he's my dear friend, but you can tell something happened to him. I mean, and how he was treated by the public was just as traumatic, as what happened. If everyone knows that story, about all the guys taking the lie detector test, that kind of thing. So again, I'm very protective of my witnesses. I don't go for that making fun. You know what I mean? I think you should be very careful who you make fun of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Travis's story is a great story. It's a timeless story. When we were together speaking at Alien Expo last year, and it was a great team. I mean, everyone thinks, what do investigators do when you get together? Well, we still talk about our work. We went out together with Kathleen Martin, who's a great researcher, and Tom Reed. And, again, that's what we talked about. All things going on. So.
Isn't that funny how people like us, that is literally all we talk about. And if anything happens, we're the ones they want to tell or go to. Well, let's talk to Angelia, or let's tell Paul, he's the crazy Bigfoot guy, or it's.
Hey, we're the fun guys. What are you talking about? I like I said, we're living in an exciting time. I mean, so interesting. Most educated people that understand the immensity of the universe will at least give you, well, I don't know, but it would be really strange if we were the only intelligent life. You have to at least, consider that. And now people are just fascinated with it. I think if you really come down to it, most human beings have had some kind of experience they can't explain. Because I think that's what we are. I mean, I think, that we kind of cross over these realities all the time, but we've been so taught to be so rigid, down in this one little area that, a lot of people are afraid to kind of break loose and, explore a little bit. But, everywhere we go, one of the funniest stories, you like this, we were at a gun forum. We go down south and have a big gun shoot and barbecue. It's classic Southern. And there was a lot of Bigfoot hunters down there. I didn't know it at the time. Everybody was quiet. Well, we've been doing our thing all day, and Dale tells this story, my honey who's usually out on tour. We're about 50 or 60 people are sitting around a bonfire in our little chairs. We're all tired, smelling like gunpowder, and no one's talking. And I was bored, and I just spoke up, and I said, anybody had a Bigfoot sighting? And Paul took their chair and goes, I mean, everyone. We talked till like 2 a.m. Dale laughed because one of his best friends said, I've been a Bigfoot researcher for 25 years. And Dale goes,
wow.
For like 5 years. I never knew that. So I think it's an exciting time because I think most people, if they're truthful, they're really interested in this. So.
Yeah, and I hate to say I told you so. To like, I grew up like this. I grew up always seeking it, and my family and friends have known me, since kindergarten. I've been looking into this stuff. I know it, and so now they're finally coming around with the advent of some of the the media putting out there that, okay, the Navy has claimed that the fighter pilots are seeing things. The USS Nimitz, with the Pentagon coming forward saying, okay, we did have a program, which, if they're telling us anything, they're still not telling us the whole thing, and that's what gets me is they want to give you just tidbits or breadcrumbs, but, I have my own thoughts about that, but I'm not going to speak it here publicly.
Well,
But
I want to tell the audience and you, I've been doing this. I'm an old chick. I've been doing this a long time, and the government never admits anything. But in the last 3 years, I've seen something. I feel like we are truly in soft disclosure. And what that means, we make one funeral at a time. First of all, 2.5 years ago, it's been almost 2 years ago, on Tucker Carlson, they let a Navy pilot come forward and show the video of him chasing this UFO. That would never have happened before. So you better believe that's soft disclosure. That's better. I'm going to throw this out to the public and see how many people panic. No one did. Then right after that, NASA announced very quietly, in all the exoplanets they found a planet that could be just like Earth. Well, what is that saying underneath? It's full of life. Come on. So I've seen things that I've never seen before, just, with government. The government said, hey, yeah, we were studying UFOs. They've never really admitted that, very seriously.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we're in an exceptional time. And, you make progress, again, one funeral at a time. I mean, years ago, I was over at Vanderbilt at the meeting over there in the astronomy club, and there was an older professor there. He was just mean. I'm not going to say a name, but, I held my own with him and another professor. It's a funny story, but I thought he was going to hit me at one point because,
wow.
I asked him, I said, well, he just got read, this is probably been 20 years ago. He said, I asked him, he asked me what I did, and I told him, and he said, well, I don't believe any of that stuff. And I said, well, have you looked at any of the hard evidence? And he said, do you mean like TV? I said, no, sir. I said, you're a scientist, right, of Redshift. I knew who he was. And he goes, yeah. And I said, I'm not talking about TV. I'm talking about pilots, astronauts, hard radio traces, radiation. Have you looked at any of that? He said, no. And I said, well, then I don't understand you. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, you're a scientist, right? He goes, right. And I said, I thought a scientist looked at every relevant piece of data before coming to a conclusion, and you've done none of it. And that's when he turned really red. But what was the fun part, 15 years later, I got invited back. This young man comes up to me and he goes, I know who you are. So I went, oh God, oh God. He goes, no, you're kind of famous around here because you stood up to whatever. And he goes, but you're going to like me. He goes, I took his place. And he goes, ETs, I'll give him any odds. So that's what's exciting to me, because the younger generations are so much more open, and, they're willing to have at least new ideas and open ideas about things. So.
Yeah, open is the key word. I think, we're to be a scientist. I mean, to me, I'm nowhere. I'm not even going to try to be a scientist, but to me, it's just about seeing the big picture and taking in everything. You can't make. It's like when we were trying to when I was in criminal investigations, to make a case, we had to take in everything, and we could leave no stone unturned. I mean, we couldn't just go in there with what we thought happened. We couldn't just talk to one or two witnesses. We had to get everything available to us just so we could make a sound decision on the matter. And I'm glad that people are starting to open their eyes a little bit and think outside the box. I mean, we're not in a little box. We shouldn't be told what to do, what to eat, how to act, anything. I mean, we have to break out of the box and see that there's something way bigger than us out there.
And you are a scientist. I mean, a police investigator. To me, the definition of a scientist is someone that is a great observer, Paul. Is a great observer, and instead of trying to force reality in our narrow thing, takes reality as it is. One of my dearest friends, Chris DiPerno, he does KGRA Project Aries. He's an New York homicide detective. He's seen it all.
Yeah.
Oh, we have some great conversations, and what a great researcher. You're a great researcher. I mean, because it comes down to that. The best researchers are, just because this doesn't fit into my neat little paradigm, I'm not going to throw it away. And that's the way my research in my book changed. Years ago, there used to be what I call the purist. If any paranormal component infected a case, you either threw the whole case out or the paranormal bit, and I wouldn't do it. When my, in 98% of my cases ongoing that were credible witnesses, they kept reporting these things. I said, that's not good science. I'm not going to throw that out. So.
Right. And that's good, because I know I've got a few police officers that I can't mention their names, but we will still go out and do some investigations or some research. And I'm sorry, my computer keeps dinging. I'm getting alerts and I don't know how to turn it off. I'm no scientist. So, but I mean, we always said that we would go in there and totally debunk every little thing. We're not going in there like some people, every little noise you hear, that's a ghost, or every little sulfuric smell you smell, that's a demon, whatever. We try to find every little thing that could be possibly explained. And then whatever's left after that, then we might have a paranormal event.
That's exactly right. And, I tell my witnesses when I'm talking to them, I said, listen.
Did I lose you? Oh boy. Hello? All right. I'm not sure if you can still hear me or not. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. It stopped recording. I think I pressed the wrong button here. But no, what were you saying? I missed part of that.
I got lost when I lost you for a second. Are we recording?
Yeah, we are. And we were talking about just going in and just debunking everything we could.
Oh, yeah. I tell my witnesses, I say, I'm not trying to say that I don't believe you, but the more mundane things that we can eliminate, the stronger your case is as a true unknown. So, yeah, I agree with that. I don't, I tell my new researchers, I want this to be true. I want it to be a UFO or some kind of thing, but we can't jump in and believe, you have to put things through rigorous tests. And, sometimes you're really disappointed. I had a witness send me, Paul, an incredible picture. It almost looked like a deer hide that had been skinned off a deer, just hanging in the air off a game camera. I'd never seen anything like it. It almost looked like a portal opening up or something. And it took me 2 weeks, but I was able to recreate it. And do you know what it was? It was a drop of water perfectly in the middle of the lens of the camera that actually either evaporated or moved off the lens, and I swear it looked like that image, and it collapsed, and it looked like a portal opening. So I was disappointed. I'd never seen anything like it, and it took me a long time to recreate it, but that's what it was. So like your police work, you have to really dig down in things. So.
Yeah, you do. And I mean, just that, if you haven't done that, or if you hadn't done that, that could send somebody else on a wild tangent to try and explore something else that would take them away from actually trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, no, I think that's good research. That's good boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground. And, and again, some of these things, it scares people, that, it kind of gets them worked up, know, we need to take as much, fear doesn't help, we need to protect ourselves, but to really get people worked up, that's not good either. So. Right.
Well, now I know we're going a little bit long, but do you have a copy of the book on your desk nearby?
I do.
Or did you sell out? Did you sell them all out?
No, I wish, but.
Well, yeah, there it is. I'm going to put a picture, and I'm also going to put a post up there, or not a post. I'm going to put a link up how to contact you, how to get a copy of the book. And I feel bad that I haven't gotten a copy yet, but I know we talked about I was going to swing by, pick up a signed copy, and we were going to do this in person, but all of this weird stuff, you and I talked about that already. We're not going to talk about that right now, but all this stuff happened and it kind of, took us away from that. But I guess I'm just going to have to order a book and let you sign it later when I see you, I guess.
Well, people, and, I just want to throw out there, for the audience, if you've had a sighting, a UFO sighting, any kind of high strange event, I'd love to hear from you. You can contact me at angeliashear.com. Just send me an email. I will get back to you. I talk to everyone. And if you're interested in the book, you want a signed copy, you can get it off my website, angeliashear.com. I'll sign it and send it to you. Or you can just get Kindle or Amazon. So whatever. So the research is the main thing. And so, if you have anyone contact you and they need me, just feel free to contact me on my site.
Yeah. And I'm a bad friend because I haven't got your book yet, but I'm going to tell you that I know it's a good book because I've heard everyone else talking about it and raving about it. I know the stories that are in there because I've listened to your seminars and they're great stories and it's going to be a good book and I can't wait to get it.
Thank you. So.
And also, I've been enjoying, you and Dale have been having these Friday night fireside chats, sometimes without the fire because it's 80 degrees outside.
It's hot.
But you're going to have to get a TV screen.
Really bored, Paul. I mean, the investigator in me has got the itch. All of us are like, we can't get outside.
Yeah, no, I've been watching it Friday nights and sometimes Saturday nights, but no, I'd love to get together with you guys when all this is over and we can do this for real. Maybe even I would love to get out there and on an actual investigation and try and live stream some of the investigations so they see how you work and your team. And your team, you have a team, or you have a website called parashearresearch.com. And that's that's kind of a side because you can't get enough research. That's to the MUFON.
Well, and I did that. MUFON asked me to come on about 5 years ago, and I want to clarify that. MUFON has a very strict protocol guidelines for their research, UFO research. And when I have my MUFON hat on, we are right there in that protocol. But I've been researching way before I joined MUFON, and again, it crosses over into the paranormal. So in Parashare research, I can research whatever the heck I want, Bigfoot, paranormal, and so that's why I have that side. And also, there's also that really don't want to put their information in a database. So if they don't, I go, hey, we'll just handle it private. We'll do whatever you need. So yeah, Paul, I'd love to have you along. My private research group, I have a great team and, different people come on and, oh my gosh, we've just had some incredible, I've been so fortunate. We've had some incredible encounters. So.
Yeah, I know I get jealous every time I see them popping up and I'm not there. So I've got to make time for you. I'd love to get out there with you guys.
You're invited. You know it. So.
I know. I just stay busy and but I appreciate you coming on. I've greatly enjoyed it, and maybe next time Dale can join. I know Dale's had some experiences as well, and I just want to get up and talk to all you guys. And you're involved now with can I mention Katie's name?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, Katie Cook. She's a sweetheart. Maybe you can come over one time with our fireside chat and just be here with us. People, we're so humbled. I told Dale, I think it's because people were as bored as us. I think we had 1,000 people watch, or something. Yeah. And I said, you people must be really bored because you're watching us here in our rocking chairs, just talking to you. But yeah, Katie's wonderful. We've been working on some projects together. She's actually, I'm going to hook you guys up. She's actually doing some projects for MUFON. She's going to be the MC at the MUFON Symposium out in Vegas this year. She and I are going to have a table together. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll all get out for that. So yeah, to me, this is not a competition sport in my view. This is all just working together. That's what makes it fun. To me, I have a job in the real world, This is about, all of us discovering the adventures and things about our own potential and, being together and having an adventure. So welcome anytime.
And thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm going to take you up on it. But I think it helps for the viewers to see real people and get to know you and know that, you can be trusted with their stories, and you can be trusted to research all the way to the best of your ability to get what you can get. And I think the fireside chats are a great way to start that. And I think people are opening up. So,
Well, I appreciate it. We've had a lot of fun, and believe it or not, I've had quite a few people call me from those, and from my book. I mean, again, I wanted to write this. There's stories I've not even talked about in here that are incredible.
Right.
Beings disappearing through walls, telepathic experiences. There's a little bit of everything for everyone in there. I wanted to, again, you can't reach out to everyone, but again, they were cases that I worked, all the way through. And again, I kind of moved from the UFO, classic UFO phenomena, more to the paranormal, to the cryptid side of things, because there's a cryptid sighting in there. There's a police officer that identifies himself in there. I just love him. He had an incredible story, and he said, I want my name in there. I want the whole deal in there. So he's in there. So I think most people seem to be really enjoying it. And that's what I wanted to go for. Just having it. Some people go, Ange, I can't read it at night when it's dark. And I go, okay, read it in the daytime, So,
Yeah.
to bring people in, enjoy the stories, but then also think about, what we are capable of as human beings, because we're capable of a lot.
Right. You're exactly right. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. It's been a pleasure and an honor. I consider you one of my mentors, and I'm glad we got connected a couple of years ago. And we'll just have you back on soon. I know we could talk for hours, but
yeah, just whatever you want to do. We'll have you at the fireside chat. And thanks again for thinking of me. It's my honor to come on and talk to your witnesses out there and your audience. I really appreciate it. You do a great job. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I maybe someone will start contacting you with their stories, and if not, they can feel free to contact me, and I will put you in touch.
Contact both of us. Go on to Mysterious Huntsman here, and we'll all have a good time. So, all right. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and you have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. We'll talk soon for sure. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. That was Angelia Shear with actually, she's with the Mutual UFO Network. She's the state director for the state of Tennessee. But she also has a great research side project called ParaShearResearch.com. And remember, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, I won't always do this, so you're welcome to come on and do a Zoom call with me. But you can check me out at MysteriousHuntsman.com, or you can reach me at MysteriousHuntsman@gmail.com. And again, I don't have any books. I'm not going to write a book yet, I don't think. But I do have t-shirts. So if you'd like to check out the merch store, I'll add a link down in the bottom. All right. Thanks, guys. Stay safe, and we will talk to you soon.